Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lord. I can't even think of what they called. Look at me. Anyway, welcome to another episode of the Lit Podcast Live Tuesday Night Tea with your host, your one and only Juana Lyles. I am excited because I have one of my favorite cousins here. She is a professional. She really is. She's a teacher, y'all. So she is a professional. She's a teacher. She is a mom, and she has experience in this subject matter that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is autism. So she's going to bring us some awareness and teach us about some ways that we can learn and accept people that have been diagnosed with autism. So, before we begin, I would like to tell you that if you would like for us to see your comments, because if you do have questions, she will be able to answer your questions for you tonight. So if you do have questions, we are streaming on StreamYard. So please allow StreamYard you have to give them permission to access your page, your comments, or something like that. So whatever they're asking you to do, you need to do it if you want your comments to be read. Okay. And thank you to everyone that's coming on Facebook. If you're watching the replay, and thank you to everyone that may appear on YouTube. So, because now we are live on YouTube as well, and we will be uploading all the other episodes. So, without further ado, I will be bringing up one of my favorite people. Hey, Kenya.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing great, and you look fabulous. You got my
Thank
favorite
you.
color on.
Yes, this is one of the primary color of autism that represents autism. As this is April, we say light it up blue.
I did not know that. Well, look at there.
Yeah.
I
So
like
if you
that.
see
I
blue
always like.
porch lights, they could be supporting autism awareness.
I didn't know that. That is awesome. And
Mhm.
here is my favorite color. So I love every shade of blue. So
Yes.
I just appreciate that. But that is because I do see blue porch lights, but I never knew that about that blue was. I never knew that whole thing, that it was associated. It's a primary color. I know that there's several colors, which I did
Mhm.
like in the puzzle. But let me really introduce
Mhm.
you and share
Mhm.
share. Okay, so because I always tell a story about how I know people, if I do know them, but so far I do know everybody. But so me and Kenya go back like babies and pacifiers. Now, like literally we do, right? Because like our girls are about the same
Just about.
age. Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
man, we
Yeah.
known each other for like 20 plus. Like, I don't want people to know how old we are. 20 plus years.
Since your
But yeah.
youngest was crawling, since
No.
your youngest was crawling, yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I don't think I did meet you at first when I
20.
met everybody else, because you were in Florida, right? When I got to meet the rest of the family.
So it's been 20 plus years.
Yeah, because I think when I met everybody when we first got married, you were
Mm,
in Florida, I think. So you didn't. I don't think I got to meet you until Anthony
mhm,
was, because I
mhm.
met everybody else when I was. I don't know. I think, was I pregnant?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, but that is so cool.
Anthony
Like
was
we've been
probably
on.
about 1 or so. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and then Anthony and Ajami are like best cousins. So that's yeah. They
Yes.
and Ryan's on, which you know her. So hey, Ryan. Um,
Hello,
so
hello everyone.
so yeah, so you can go ahead and, because I know, I mean, we family, so like we literally are family. I don't like,
Mm,
you know, I don't like us to be like we in laws or anything, because
No,
we're
we're
for
cousins.
real cousins, right? Like we real cousins, So we fight like cousins
Okay.
and we love like cousins, right? so so
Yes, we
yeah,
have had a couple of those verbal fights. But, to
but
those of you who do not know,
oh,
there's a delay when you're talking. Okay, I think it's
okay,
okay now.
okay,
Okay.
it might be my internet. It keeps, I'm an Alabama girl. Okay,
No, okay.
okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, my name is Kenya Ash for anyone who is on and does not know me or not family affiliated. Of course, I know Juana, as she said, as we are cousins. And I am also a mother of a son who is now 16 and a half years old. And I am also an educator. I'm an elementary school teacher. I've been teaching for 15 years now. I've taught young children at grade K and third grade, and I currently teach fifth grade. And I have also worked with um, autistic children in my classroom from time to time. Um, and I've also been um, influential in helping an autistic child be diagnosed as he was in my classroom and as a classroom teacher. Not that I could diagnose, but as a classroom teacher, you should be well aware of the behaviors of any of your students. So that's my experience. Oh, and I have a specialist in elementary education.
You is smart. You is smart. But for real, because sometimes I think that is so important because so I think my first real experience was because of your daughter being, knowing someone close, right? But then my brother's son also was diagnosed with autism. So when it was so helpful because I think he is 6. Yeah, she's 16, he's 10. So yeah, he's 6 years younger than her.
Mhm.
So I saw that's right, I'm doing math right. Look, I can't do no math.
Mhm.
I cannot do no math. But so when I saw different signs in him, but it was because of your daughter that I was able to, my
Mhm.
own training to because after I became interested in it after your daughter, I can't remember if I could say her name, so but because of your daughter, I was like,
Mhm.
wow, this is interesting. And so I started learning more about autism myself personally. And so because of that and then my personal experiences with your child, then I was like, when my brother's child was born, I was like, hey, y'all need to get him tested, but he was so young, and they were like, no, 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 he's fine, but then later it was diagnosed. So it is,
Mhm.
and I think now I was looking at some of the statistics, and it was saying like it has diagnosing has increased. And I know that people, I don't really like statistics, truthfully, and that's just my
Mhm.
personal thing, because it can give us a false sense of reality because truthfully, we don't know that's just what's reported. It could be more than that, obviously, because um that's just what people report. And if you don't go get your child tested, or if they're not diagnosed or whatever, then obviously that's just one less that we know about, so anyway, and that's with
Mhm.
any statistic. So how do you
Mhm.
know how early it is that a child can be diagnosed with autism? Like what's
Um,
the average age?
well, usually when you take your child to those checkups, for us, she was actually diagnosed at 4.5 years old. But what happens most oftentimes is that at your pediatrician checkups, anywhere from the time that they should start hitting those milestones, where they should start pointing or gesturing, or babbling, or not babbling, but at least talking or uttering one or two words. So I suppose anywhere between 9 months and a year, if you notice your child isn't doing that, then you need to start asking your pediatrician questions and let your pediatrician know. That's how it happened for us. But I want to back up a little bit just in case there are some people on who don't really know what autism is. And autism is actually a
Yeah.
spectrum, like the spectrum of colors. It is a long range or spectrum of neurological disorders that can be different in every person.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, the internet. She's frozen. But as Kenya is saying, it is a spectrum, and it is like a big range. And now but in counseling, what we use
That's
is oh, you are frozen, Kenya. So
Yeah, you were too. I could not see you,
oh,
but I
okay.
was typing in the chat. I didn't know if you could see it, if you could hear me or
Oh,
not.
okay, I see it. I see it. Yeah, I would. I didn't. I
Okay.
see it.
So it's a range, and autism it's a neurological developmental disorder that can affect someone's it severely can affect someone's ability to speak and communicate and
Hmm.
interact with others. And that's the absolute worst part about it, because many times you find that the public, whether it's other children, the child's peers or the family members, or just anyone at church dealing with someone who can't communicate, who looks absolutely normal, is strange to people, and they don't know how to handle that. But that's what autism is. But diagnosis for us, um, it was actually my mother who realized that there was something going on with my daughter, because she had began to babble as like a toddler or a baby would, but then she said she stopped. But what I had noticed, and I didn't notice that part, and I will tell you, and that's another big issue we have with autism as parents, especially as a single parent or just parents who are extremely busy working, taking care of other kids. Sometimes you miss those little things that could be
Hmm.
huge. Not that we could have done anything about it. I'm just thankful that I did have her grandmother who noticed it. So
Hmm.
we were going for her checkup as usual, and we went for her 1 year checkup, and she didn't hit that checkup, and she didn't hit the milestone. So it is so important that you take your child to the checkups and do not be afraid to speak. So we went to that 1 year checkup, and the doctor noticed what I was explaining to him as we were just sitting there watching her everywhere. So this was at 1 year. And what they labeled her as, not labeled, but diagnosed. And there's nothing wrong with the label. Is in my belief. You need to be labeled. That's sometimes an ill thing, but you just need to understand what it means. But she
Hmm.
was diagnosed as developmentally delayed.
Hmm.
So we go from one. So from 1 years old all the way through her diagnosis, which didn't happen until she was 4.5 years old because the wait list was so long. But because I did early intervention and we were on it, with the pediatrician, I mean, the following week after going to that pediatrician visit and she didn't hit those milestones, we were already enrolled in physical therapy, speech therapy, behavioral therapies. She had support. These programs, these people were coming out to the house to meet with us. It would be 3 to 4 of them all coming to observe at the same time and to interact with the family and just learn how she's behaving and what we're seeing and just interview us. And it was real casual. They were on the floor. They really just whatever she wanted to do. We just happened to land with some really good people at the time. And
Yeah.
so she's been getting therapies since age 1. And so when we finally got in at the Weiskopf Center, um, she was 4.5 years old. And each doctor, it was about five various doctors, from medical to psychological experts, who interviewed her and tested her individually. And it was a full day. It was an 8-hour day. We had taken
Wow.
lunch and everything. But individually, they met with her, and individually they came to the conclusion that she was on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah.
So that was our journey to diagnosis. But oftentimes we find that parents, um, just because they do not know, they may never get diagnosed, or they're diagnosed so late in years that they've missed all the early interventions that could have really helped them later on as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I think sometimes if you as a parent, do you think, well, let me just ask, because I mean, I don't know, because it's been a long time since I had a child. But
Mhm,
um, but I tell our kids, go, hey, some they coughing wrong or something doesn't seem right. Say something, So I think sometimes we don't have the education sometimes as
mhm,
parents, or depending, I think we talked about this before, like socioeconomic situations. So we may
mhm,
not have the awareness or the education to even know what to look for, because um for instance, like in my brother's situation with his son, um his then wife at the time, she's half Puerto Rican, right? So her dad is fully Puerto Rican and English is his second language. So she was thinking that when their son didn't speak, it's because her father didn't speak for a long time. So
mhm,
she just thought, oh, it's normal, because my daddy didn't talk. So, um, he's not talking either. So
mhm.
not being, and that could have just been, that could be the case for some people, like their kids just doesn't talk for a while and then they just start talking. I guess, I don't know, but for me, I'd be like, hey, why are you not talking, and that's how I was for them. I was like, hey, why he not talking? And my brother was like, oh, well, her dad didn't talk, that's okay, she said her dad didn't talk. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but I had a different education, um in different circumstances. So sometimes I think too, like when we have younger parents, because they're a lot younger than me, when we have younger parents, they may not know what to look for. What do you,
Yeah, sometimes you do find that the experiences of people who lived during the times when we didn't have these medical advances and these technological advances, that they may say things like that. But I but but parents need to understand, it is extremely important to know and understand each and every developmental milestone that your baby should hit.
mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to panic anyone, but I would rather know and be fully knowledgeable than to let time pass. Um, any teacher that my child has ever had, or her doctors, her therapist, have always said, because you always go through the same thing, you have to always tell your experience and your story, but they've always giving given us a lot of praise and been so proud of Kimani, and could tell it was the early intervention
Right.
is what has helped her come to where she is now. It's early intervention. You have got to um, I'm not saying throughout everything that your that your grandma and great grandma and your uncle auntie told you. However, we are
Mm-hmm.
just far too advanced in the medical field and with technology to just rely on someone else's experience, because no two people are the same.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I think that I'm glad you said that, the early intervention, because
Yeah.
again too, like my nephew, because of the early intervention, and I just kind of stayed on my brother. I If I'm not mistaken, he was they kind of started him. He was around the same age as Kimani, like around the 1.5, 2 year mark, where
Hmm.
they they started paying attention, the doctors. like, hey, he is not meeting these milestones. So yeah, we need to, you know, I think maybe it was the same thing. Like, okay, he's developmentally delayed because of the milestones until he was able to do the long, you know, the further testing and to get the full diagnosis. But um, and because you had mentioned like the spectrum, just to show people what a spectrum looks like you were saying, you could be nonverbal, right? To
Yes, you could be extremely nonverbal. You could be in a wheelchair. You could have uncontrollable movements. It's a neurological development.
Mhm,
You you could have other issues that other diagnoses mixed in with that. Um,
mhm,
some people can't. Some autistic persons just simply cannot function um, on their own. It is a full spectrum. But then you'll have an autistic person, as I do in my classroom this year, who is extremely bright and very well versed and has what we call um, tics or stems some, and is hypersensitive to noise and may need small group, and is has very deliberate and consistent behaviors that aren't necessarily bad. Some may find some of the things, someone being so straightforward, as rude, but I mean, I don't. I like it because I usually say exactly how I feel, and so it's very different. It's a wide range spectrum. For instance, like Temple Grandin, she's a well known autistic person who actually changed the cattle industry in the Midwest. Extremely bright, but had many issues coming up as a child. She would not speak. She would not recite the alphabet. She would scream. She would do all the things I saw my daughter doing,
mhm,
and all the things that myself and my family experienced.
mhm,
Um, you could have an autistic child like mine who um, it was a battle for teeth brushing. It was extremely exhausting just to brush your teeth and just think you have to brush your teeth 3 times a day. You could have someone who has no problem with brushing teeth. They have no problem with the texture. They have no problem with something being inserted into your mouth. But then you have a child who is like, I'm afraid, what are you doing? And can't speak at the same time, and you're putting something in their mouth and you're scrubbing their teeth.
mhm,
And literally, you may have to hold them. So it's a wide range to someone who you would never even know they were autistic until you spent enough time with them to see, oh, so
mhm.
yeah, it's a very wide, broad range,
Right,
broad
because
spectrum.
I know in our diagnostic manual, our what is called the DSM-5, right? It's
Hmm.
they've what in the last update, which is the 5, they had added to where now it's spectrum, right? And they added in what we know as Asperger's, which is really
Yep.
just people not having social um like social cues, not understanding social cues, or
Hmm.
I don't want to say understanding because I think they understand it. They just don't respond well to social cues. So like
Yeah, they may not respond well or appropriately, or may
appropriately.
not be able to understand them. They don't get asked. They don't get. I'm sorry. They don't get sarcasm. They're
Right.
just
Right. Just
direct,
direct.
and with they can't really
Hmm.
determine those shades of meaning.
Right. So they don't understand those. Yeah, like the sarcasm. Yeah.
They're
So, and
very
that's
matter of fact.
right. That's exactly the best way to say it, as matter of fact. And so people, if you meet a person that has Asperger's, even they are just is like you would not even know, right? And then you just think, oh my gosh, they so rude, because of what they could say or do, and you just like what and I truly believe there are so many people that may be on that level now, but
Mm,
it goes unnoticed until a lot of times I think especially like with older, as you get older, because I had a couple clients in my own experience as a clinician that didn't get diagnosed with being on the spectrum until they were actually adults.
mhm.
Just which is like one person, they were 19 years old getting diagnosed. So,
A lot of times, from the community that I've lived most in is the Black community.
mhm,
So I'm speaking from more experience from that. So what I have found a lot of times, Black folk just may say, well, they're acting up. I've
mhm,
witnessed that. They just people just don't understand it. Um, so when I guess if I could say to someone who doesn't even know what to look for to know if someone's autistic, if you continue to get reports from school from your child's teacher that continue to talk about if they keep having these same behaviors or these same issues, and it may not even be autism, but if you continue to see it, same ill behaviors or inappropriate behaviors, or you continue to tell your child over and over and over again, over and over and over again, and you think they should be at the maturity level where they understand what that means, what they should or should not do, and you keep getting these reports from home, request request some testing, request that to ask to the teacher, tell them I need some help. I wonder if they're having a behavior issue. I wonder if there's some
mhm,
sort of behavior disorder. Not to attack the teacher or anything, but kids don't act up in school just to act up. It's either because they are a low or struggling learner, so they're trying to deflect from not being able to show what they know, not be able to do the work, or they truly have some sort of behavior or some sort of issue that they need to be tested by a doctor. And your
right.
teacher, your school will not tell you because then they're liable to
Are you
pay for that
serious?
to pay for that testing. I have a hat on it. I'm a parent. So I can tell you
No,
that.
no, I
because,
appreciate that
yeah,
because people
because they're
don't
held
know.
liable. Parents, you have to advocate for your child. I don't care if it's autism or whatever it is, but if you ask for a behavior plan, because you have to go through a series of steps and
Mhm,
levels before before you even get to what you the true diagnosis maybe. But if you keep getting, that's what I find they keep having these ill behaviors. And most teachers, like myself, I have to say, well, we need to get a behavior plan in place. And most schools probably do that. I don't work at every school, so I'm just speaking from my experience. But there'll
mhm,
probably be a behavior plan. But if you keep seeing certain things and inappropriate things, take your child to the pediatrician. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid or don't be embarrassed that your child may not be um, what you deem or society deems as normal.
right.
Ask questions, ask deeper questions. Well, what are they doing when they're acting like this? What's happening? Try to figure out, what are they being triggered by something in the school or in the classroom, or even if it's at home. Parents just need to ask a lot of questions, um and just know that if your child, something else I need to say, if your child is having ill behavior, just know they're probably wearing that teacher out. So try not to be too hard on the teacher,
Yeah.
because she's probably trying to have the patience of Job with your child. But the biggest thing is, parents don't know until sometimes it's too late. Um,
Mhm,
well, I hate to say too late. It's never too late, but they don't know until too much time has passed. So ask
right.
questions, be in tune, and request. Say, "Will you test my child?"
Mhm,
And have your reason why you want that child tested. Um, but yeah, that's the biggest thing, because it autism affects everyone. Talk to if you have other children. It's not a one thing. It's not just a parent thing or that child's thing. It is a family thing. Autism affected everyone in our household. The
mhm,
screaming, the not being able to go in certain places affected my other two children.
mhm.
Um, and they need to talk about it. There are supports out here. There are siblings of autistic kids.
Oh, like a
Support
support
groups.
group? Okay.
Yes, there's tons of groups throughout different communities. I'm not saying it's in every community, but every state. Autismspeaks.org. Autismspeaks.org. I'm going to type, well, I can't type in the comments.
I can put it on there.
Okay. Autism Speaks. L.I.T.org. They are represented in every state and in all major cities in this country. And actually, they're throughout the world. Um, there are different support groups that can put you in touch with people. But just remember, autism is not just affecting you, the parent, it's
Is that right?
affecting that child's teacher, everyone that, yes, that's right,
Okay.
everyone that child comes in contact with. And I think a lot of time in our community, well, the Black community, and that's the community I'm speaking from experience, the experience I have, those I have talked to, they're so ashamed sometimes, or they want to be. I've seen where parents have been harder on a kid, and I'm like, well, now, I'm not saying that with autism you don't need to discipline a child. You don't need to give them a consequence. What a verbal discipline is what I mean, or a consequence. They can be sent to their rooms too. But a lot of times, I find in our community, we're so quick to want to correct the behavior in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually a reason when a child is acting in that way, and don't ignore it. There are interventions out here. There are many interventions out here and many support systems. I'm trying to go down this little list right here and make sure I'm not
Well,
leaving anything out.
while you're checking that, I wanted to just add, like, Maya works as a paraprofessional in special needs classroom, but so most of the kids in her classroom are I think it is like isolation. She's not on, so I can't ask her, but I think it is like an isolation classroom. I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know if it's isolation or not, but they get to go to like other
Resource
classes, but
class.
she has to go with them to the classes or whatever. Um
Hmm.
so all her children have autism, and I know that she just got like a new child, and it's so bad. This, like, when you were saying this stuff, it was making me think about this. She was saying the school where the child went, they didn't. I don't. This sounds so bad. They didn't want the child there, I guess.
Hmm.
So they had the child go to. Oh, she said it's she's is on. She said
So
it's
it's a regular
self-contained.
ed inclusive. So it's probably an inclusive
She's
inclusion style class, and it's self-contained. But they
That's
have
what she
special
said.
ed inclusion. They call it in Georgia. They usually call that inclusion.
Okay,
And
yeah,
so it's
she
a
said
self-contained classroom where it's one home room, but there may be a small group of special needs students who Maya has to follow throughout their day because
yeah.
it's in their IEP that they are supported by a parapro
Yeah,
to support
that's exactly
in
what
their
she's
learning.
saying. She said it's self-contained, but I push out with students to certain classes. And so
Mhm,
anyway, if I'm getting it wrong, Maya, correct me, but it's like um, so they had this child go to where her school is so that he's
mhm.
not at the other school. I don't know if it's because the services at her school are better or what, but I'm just saying, like, and so she's there with the children, and she tells me a lot of times, her and the teacher that she works with, many of the times, like, they understand, they have special training in what they do.
Mhm.
Um so the other teachers look at them like, what y'all doing, why y'all doing that, because they think that they're being mean or harsh or something.
You mean the other teachers mean the regular ed teachers?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they have. It sounds like they have high expectations of their autistic, their special needs class, the same as I do for my child. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
And
smart.
she put in the comment, she said, our school has a program for that student, whereas the other school didn't have one established already. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
and
let
that's what it is. They not that they. I'm sure they want
I know.
them there. They receive funds for them being there. They have the money to support the child. But a lot of times you find that, and in Georgia, you have a right if what your child needs is not at their school, you have a right to go to another school where they can meet their needs. But there, of course, there's some paperwork and other things involved. It's not just hey, show up to the school.
Mhm.
There's a process. But yeah.
So I wonder, I guess that, because see, I guess, I mean, it's been a minute since I've been in school, but I just remember, you know, the most I remember special needs kids, it was like they were in an isolated place all by themselves, except for
Mhm.
I remember one of my favorite persons, his name was Ben, and he had Down syndrome though. And um and so I always volunteered because he was in a wheelchair, and I always volunteered to take him. And I was like in third, fourth grade, just to push him
Mhm.
to wherever, I just volunteered to do that. But um it was like we never got to see the children. So I do like that the children are, like what you're saying, inclusive now. Like they can be,
Mhm.
because they're still human beings, they're people.
Well, well, now we've advanced so much that
Yeah.
there are several different class models, and you may have one school that has different class models. Like we have an
Oh.
inclusive classroom, but we also have a what we call a resource room, like what you're describing back in the day. We do have that
Mhm.
room because there are some kids who need it because at the same time, um, even for my own daughter, yes, they're autistic, but they cannot impede the learning of the other students. They also have a right to be able to learn, because she used to be in a class like that. Actually, she's back in a class like that because of her needs. That's where she's most comfortable because of her social anxiety. But you can't have a child in a regular classroom. They're screaming and hollering. She used to scream all the time,
Mm.
and because she could not speak, and then some of it she didn't want to do what they wanted her to do.
Mhm.
So there are in some students, not saying autistic students, but other students with other diagnoses may have some violent tendencies, or
True.
may just need may be so low that they need to be in that small resource classroom.
Okay.
But they, like Maya said, in her self-contained, they push out. But in this resource type classroom nowadays, these students, they still go to special area. Um, they still participate in certain programs like the DARE drug awareness program.
Okay.
They may push into a regular ed classroom. So it is a lot more inclusive now. But there are times some of those kids, they do need their own space.
Is Do you know, I'm switching gears a little bit, but do you know if there's something to help parents? Because I know you said there's support groups like for children that are siblings. Is there something that parents can do? Because I knew we had some soldiers back in the day. They had three autistic children, and I'm talking
Mhm,
about like at the time we knew them, they were like three, two, and one kind of thing. And
mhm.
none of them, they were all nonverbal. All they did, I was just like, I went over there one day and I was like, I, I was just like, how do you do this all day with three
It's
of
very
them?
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that same website, autismspeaks.org, they
Okay.
can connect families with entities within their state. Everyone has a chapter.
Okay.
It's like the Boy Scouts, Girl
Okay.
Scouts. There's a chapter in every state and in several cities. Um, they may go by counties, but if you get on that website and search that website, and there are others, but that's the primary one that helped me on my journey. They have many toolboxes, but maybe not in the community, because that's another thing about autism. Some of the primary teachers are the parents.
Mm.
They've advanced a lot more, but I've had pediatricians tell me how much they rely on us. But may not in every community, because it's still a tough it's hard to get support sometimes. But this same website, they can connect people with parent support groups. And if nothing else, go to Google and type in autism parent groups. You can go to Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm in several different autism groups on Facebook. I'm in a autism group for teens, because as parents, as I said, we're the teachers. You have to be proactive. You have to fight like no other for your child, um, and you have to educate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it is. You have to educate your own child and find those supports. But on Facebook, I don't know about Twitter or Instagram really, but I know Facebook. I'm in several groups. For my daughter right now, she's 16 and a half. So we're in a six face group. There are even some just regular, very regular people. These aren't professionals necessarily, but people who, whatever issue they're having. Like I've seen a group where, what's that game? Minecraft. autism group. And it's really
Okay.
parents who have been proactive in getting their kids in this. And in those, you may find they may post, maybe there's a walk somewhere, play dates somewhere. Like we have connected through autismspeaks.org, the Georgia
Mhm.
chapter, like they have, there's always something going on. They have bowling nights, they
Oh,
throughout the summer movie nights. So it's really just a community with a plethora of groups. You just have to find your place in that group and just be diligent and consistent
yeah.
about seeking out that information. It's not just listed like the schools are listed, it's not easy like that. You
Mhm.
have to do some digging, but I will tell you it's come a long way. But if you have a school-age child, start with them. They need to know. They need to find out. And if they don't know, go up to someone above them, because there's no reason why the special ed resource, the lead special ed coordinator at any school, cannot put a teacher, a parent in touch with the community. I know here in Georgia, our special ed our special ed lead, our special ed department, I'm saying here in Georgia, but at my school, every year they send out a huge packet of camps for special needs. It's a directory of
Wow.
special needs camps and different services in schools, summer camps and stuff. I mean, it isn't easy. I'm not trying to say it
Mhm.
is. I've been doing it for years, but um, start with your pediatrician in your school. um,
Mhm.
the Marcus Center here, the Marcus Center for Autism in Atlanta, Georgia. That's another great place to start there. They can diagnose, they have tons of resources that can be helpful to a family to
Mhm.
understand what you're dealing with, to even know other programs that may be out here. And I will tell you, as the autistic child ages, the programs come far and few between. You
Wow.
become the program.
Wow.
The family becomes the program, and you just continue to insert your child um, into society.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I do like that they have that one show on TV, The Good Doctor. Um, I haven't really watched it per se, but then there's other shows too. My mom actually watches all of these shows just because of my nephew. Like she
Hmm.
just because we see everybody else represented on TV. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so I don't know how realistic. I'm sure it is realistic, but the good doctor, he is autistic, so
Hmm.
is or he I don't like saying like that, but he has been diagnosed with autism. So
No, he is autistic. That's what it is. He's on the autism spectrum.
Ryan says she loves it. It's an amazing show to watch. But he's like the Asperger's kind of stuff too, where you can see he doesn't have the social
He's a
bedside.
lucky one. He's
Yeah.
playing. I don't know if I don't watch the show. I don't
I
know.
don't
Does he actually have it? I don't know.
I don't know if he actually does or not. But
But well, the
but I'm
role
just
he's playing, he's a lucky one. That's
yeah.
not real life for most of
Yeah, so
us.
that's what I was wondering if it's real life. But I don't but I mean, like my nephew, I know he's considered to be high functioning. But what
Hmm.
I wanted to say with this is that people just think sometimes like, oh, what's wrong with them? Why they you see sometimes kids with headphones or
That
like the
was my
kids with
daughter.
the tics or whatever.
Hmm.
My nephew, he does too sometimes, but it's like they get sensory overload
Hmm.
and um it's a touch to you might feel soft, but to them, it can feel like I don't even know what it can feel like, but
From
it can
annoying to
feel
painful.
painful, right? It could be annoying to painful.
And I
Um,
only know this because in the groups that I'm in, also, you will also come across some adult autistic persons or teen autistics who are now at the level where they can express their experiences. I mean, there are some autistic persons who are writing books about their experiences as a child.
mhm. Yeah, I watched something. It was like a little show or something. I can't remember. It was like a little quick documentary or something. I can't remember. It was just
Mhm.
something that I came across. And
Mhm.
the girl was nonverbal, but she could type, because she could read and write, and well, she could type, and
Mhm.
she explained it, and it just made so much sense that she was saying exactly that. Like, it's annoying to painful. I can't verbalize, but like maybe this sound that I'm hearing, even if it's just like a little humming sound that you may not even be able to hear, but I'm hypersensitive to that. So I
Mhm.
can't do anything but scream,
Mhm.
because I
And
can't say stop the sound, because the words, I don't have the words. But
mhm.
I'm just like, because it's hard. It's hurtful to me. It's painful.
Mhm. And
Just
that's
like,
why it's so oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
I was gonna say that's why it's so important to make sure that you get your child into therapies that can help with that.
Hmm.
Um, they have occupational therapies where they can get your child accustomed to the touches and get
Hmm.
them to understand them, along with speech therapy gets them to be able to verbalize what they're feeling, or at least get to a point where they can use a communication device to verbalize what they're feeling. Like Imani used to, when we used to go, when she was just 1.5, I remember starting, they started the balls at about 1.5. When you jump into balls there, I mean, there's so many different occupational therapy strategies that they can use that helps with that sensory overload. Because think about it, we have 5 senses,
Right.
and you're hypersensitive to 5 of them, and they're coming at you all at one time. That's
Yeah.
tough. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you have to do your therapies, but also you have to teach your child. You
Hmm.
know that we can't scream everywhere, and it's tough. It was a really hard road for us. It was especially hard because we were always under judgment of those who didn't understand, whether it was family or strangers who did not understand that, yeah, she's autistic, but as her mother, I'm responsible. And as a parent, you are responsible for making sure that autistic child of yours can get as far as they can give so that they can live on their own. Because one day you won't be there. It will be just them. So that's the tough part, because along with the therapies and everything, you still have to be mama and daddy. You still have to set an expectation,
Yeah.
because they will meet it. It's not they have trouble speaking and socializing. They're
Hmm.
not ignorant. They're
Yeah.
intelligent,
They are really, I'm
and
glad
they
you
can
said that.
definitely learn. They're very bright,
They
and
are.
they will manipulate and they will play it against. Um, Kimani, for a long time, for years now, she's been at the level to where she's insulted when someone speaks to her like she's, I don't know,
Like a baby or something.
like she's, yeah, like she's a baby, or she's a little kid.
Mhm,
It's quite insulting. And I've
mhm,
seen her play people. She's
mhm.
like, oh, okay, is that what we're doing?
She
Or
probably
she won't
get
want
me
to deal
because
with
I
you because
be
she feels like you don't respect her, you know?
mhm. I know I
So,
have to be mindful of it, because I just get so excited to see her, because she's one of my favorite people, and I'm just
mhm,
always like, "Kimani," and and to me, I always see her as, I mean, the same way I see all these kids. She 2
mhm,
years old watching VeggieTales, just like I
mhm,
see, Maya Anthony, Kata, Aaliyah, all them is being like 5 playing,
mhm,
it's hard for me to
mhm.
see them grow up. So she probably be like, "Oh, that's what we doing to me," because I'm that
Mm, yeah.
person. But I'll keep in mind, it's always hard for me to. I'm like, she's 16.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I know it's tough for family members as well,
yeah,
because um, family members don't understand it. And what I could say to that, to any, if you are a family member, if you are an aunt or even just a close friend to a family who has someone who is on the autism spectrum, educate yourself. They don't have time to educate you. That parent is trying to deal with their child. The last thing they want to be able to do is talk to you about what you can do, how you can do to interact with their child, who they're like, they're a kid. Can you try to treat them like all the other children?
yeah,
So educate yourself. Read about autism. Read about what it does. Pay attention to the behaviors of that person who has autism. Um,
mhm,
just really educate yourself, because there's no reason why that autistic person should be excluded from their own family.
Right.
because they're already excluded from the world. And I think that's another, it's just education. I can't say enough about educating oneself,
Right. And
whether
that's
you're the aunt, the friend, I don't care who you are, you have got to educate yourself. I see Maya mentioned ABA. Yeah, ABA, see
mm-hmm.
early intervention, because ABA is extremely difficult to get. We've been here in Georgia for like 10 years. We were on a wait list for 3 years for ABA, and she aged out. Not that she's aged out, you can't find enough service providers for the older autistic
Mm.
child.
Wow.
So early intervention, you've got to know. Don't be embarrassed. Find out.
Yeah.
It don't say they're not talking because Uncle Sam didn't talk. No, they're not Uncle Sam. They're different.
And
And young mothers who are carrying these babies, start educating yourself about the milestones before you even get your child. Not saying that no one is, but I'm just thinking, by my point, by that my time I had experience. She was my third child. But what I see a lot of times when I've had to talk to young mothers in the classroom,
mm-hmm.
they don't, like when I was a kindergarten and third grade teacher, they just don't know. Um, Not that it's their fault. I'm not trying to give anyone a hard time, but you have got to read or listen to a book or an article. You've got to read, because I'm telling you, time goes so fast. Before you know it, that child is older. You can't find services for the older child. You
Yeah.
just, it's really hard. And ABA is really good. So what I ended up doing to help educate myself, I was going to get the certification, but I decided not to. It was a little too expensive. So I said, well, I can read about it.
Yeah.
So along with, just kind of chatting with a couple of professionals that I work with, and just reading and educating myself on ABA therapy. I know I was never anywhere as good, because I'm still a parent. I'm a teacher, but I'm still a parent who was trying to apply ABA. And what I did was, it boiled down to, I was consistent.
Mm.
I said what I said, and I meant what I said. I didn't care what anyone else, any friend or any family thought about what I was doing with her. I was consistent. I was determined, and had an expectation. And I addressed it. I addressed behaviors immediately.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know all about ABA, but one thing, that's what I pulled from it after all my reading and studying. I need to be consistent. We need to do this over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
No,
it's really hard.
I could see that it worked, because I could see the development and the progress that she has made. And,
Thank you.
remembering when she was nonverbal to now, you can have a whole conversation with her. And something I wanted to add before we get out of here is these children are very intelligent. And I think
Oh.
if if you are, like you said, be consistent, be determined, and um what was the last thing you said, because it was good. um uh,
Expectations, high expectations.
Expectations. Yes, have expectations for them,
I have high
because
expectations, not
like my
extreme, but high expectations.
yes, because like Kimani, that girl can draw. Like
Now,
she
this is
can draw.
always my opinion. I want to say, I do not have a degree in autism. I have a degree in the autism with my child, who is 16 and a half years old.
Hey, but I'm just saying that's spot on, because like, Kimani, you tapped into, you opened up, you unlocked that thing, you know what I'm saying? You found something that she can do, that she does really well. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, and you allow her to explore and be good with that, because she can draw and she's really good at it. And like my
Hmm.
nephew, he's like a number, I don't know, like that dude, I don't know, he just, numbers is his thing. And so it's like sometimes it's just, you have to tap into that one little resource thing that when you unlock that thing, it's just like, wow. And
Hmm.
they're just little geniuses. And
Hmm.
I think we just see all the stuff that they can't do instead of focus on the things that they can do. And so if we expect them not to do anything, they won't do anything. So that's why I
Right.
like that you said that, have expectations for them to participate. And I love that you always come to the family and you just like, no, don't let her do that, do this, treat her like everybody else. And
Hmm.
and it's important, because sometimes my nephew, I be wanting to snatch him up. But
I see one of your watchers said, "Be patient." Of course, be
it's my
patient. That's
mom.
naturally a that's a natural given. You will have no choice. You will have the patience of Job
Yeah.
by the time that child is done with you. I mean, we've gone to a movie theater, got in the parking lot, and Kimani was decided she was going to scream and holler, and we just had to go. The other kids couldn't see the movie. My other two. It's just how it was.
Wow.
We've been many of places and have had to walk out. And again, I had a parent support. We were in therapies, and they were there to help answer any questions. I said, we go to Walmart. She screams. She's throwing tantrums. I said, I don't know what it is, but there's something in Walmart or any store she can't handle.
I can't handle
And
Walmart.
they did say it could be overstimulation. And I said, well,
Mhm.
we could go anywhere. She doesn't want to be there. She's just, and plus she's delayed. So she's several years behind. I'm talking about when she was like anywhere between 4 and 7. So let's say if she's
Mhm.
4, she's acting like a 1 or 2 year old.
Right. I
And they said leave. She's because then it got to the point to where I'm teaching her this is the expected behavior when we're out, because you cannot.
Mhm.
I couldn't take her to a babysitter. I couldn't just naturally do that. I had to grocery shop, for my household, for myself and the other children. So I've had my therapist, I'll never forget. She said, when you're in that store, and if she does that, you talk to her and try to, and get her to, explain to her, make sure she's okay, and see if you can find an aisle where you can just calm her. If you can't calm her, then leave. And we had to do that because it was, of course, you're going to get tons of people looking. And don't stare at people. If you see someone struggling with their child, don't stare. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about my experience now,
No,
but
but that's real.
we would
That's
have to
real.
leave. And sometimes I was glad to leave. I've left church. And actually, that was my last day at church. That was my
Because
last day
people
walking
are,
to them.
they're making judgments and they don't know what your situation is. They just like, she ain't doing that with her baby, or
Yeah,
whatever.
you never know. That
You
kid
never
having a
know.
tantrum, whether they're autistic or not, you don't know that.
They need to whoop her. You know what I'm saying? They making all this stuff and
You
it's
don't
not
know
the
that.
that's not, yeah.
So we've left many of places.
Mhm.
And I've just packed up and said, well, let's go. Get my kids home. I go in my room and cry my heart out. So
Aw.
you will learn patience. You will have no choice. You're gonna get that. But
But
and be patient with the parents, the autistic child and the parents. I remember being just so mentally and physically exhausted. And when I look back on it, by the time I do get around family to hang out, I wasn't in a good mood. I didn't feel like
mhm.
talking. I didn't feel like explaining what's going on with Kimani. I remember telling someone, "Can you look it up?" I've emailed articles a couple of times. I've sent people a couple of things. Just it's exhausting.
Yeah.
I feel for autistic parents. Of course, it is terribly exhausting because then you look at the other children who are not autistic, and you look at their struggle.
The things
They're
change.
stressed out. They're embarrassed. They're kids. They're embarrassed. They're
Yeah.
upset that you have to leave the place you're at. You know,
Mm.
um, they didn't get to do whatever activity you were trying to do, or you had to leave them there with another parent because you have to take. I have to take my
Okay.
daughter away because I'm not going to have her in a place screaming and hollering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever it is. But that's been what's worked for us. Again, I am not a professional in autism. I am a professional educator. I do know and understand children, and I'm professional with my daughter. But what has worked for me is just being consistent, patient, and having an expectation.
Mhm.
Um, I I remember trying to tell a teacher, just let her know ahead of time. some of the things she may notice Kimani's doing when she doesn't want to show, when she knows, or when she doesn't feel like doing work. And the teacher, oh, she's so sweet. Yeah, she's sweet. She's so this. And I just didn't want to make her. Well, if you're not making her, then you're not meeting my child's needs. I've had to tell her, you have to report this to me, not just because she's sweet, but she's smart,
Right.
so, um, I don't even know why I said that. Just
No, but
thinking,
you were saying you
about
said that
everything.
you had said that before about how they can manipulate. So if you gonna let me do it, then I'm gonna do it. So just
And
like
my
any other
husband's
child.
it really is. And my husband's experience, my husband, he has a degree in social work, and
Hmm.
he worked in a special needs home.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what, like a state center
Hmm.
for a while himself, and he's also worked in a school before. And he's great with Kimani, and he too has always known that, hey, you have to, yes, we're gonna love them, we're gonna be patient with them, but we're not gonna coddle them, we're not going to hinder them from growing because we feel sorry for them. They don't need our sympathy. They could use some empathy, but they don't want
Yeah.
us feeling sorry for them. That's an insult to my daughter.
Yeah.
So he's really good with them, with he was really good with special needs people, and he
Hmm.
learned a lot himself, and he was telling me about his experiences. And I remember my daughter, I'm gonna tell you this personal story. My daughter, and y'all maybe remember, the family who may look at this later or in now, I don't know if you know, but Kimani used to see something, like see McDonald's, and she point, we'd be in the car, you'd be like, Kimani, what do you want to eat? Oh, I didn't mean to say my baby's name, Lord, I hope don't nobody. Well, anyway, and she'd point, and I accepted it. I was worn down. I was doing good to get her to stop screaming. So I didn't care if she
Hmm.
pointed at McDonald's. Well, Daryl and I, we had been dating for a few months, and, we finally went out, and he asked Kimani, what do you want to eat? And she did like this, pointing, because she saw McDonald's. He said, I don't know what that means. You have to talk to me. I have never heard her say this word a day in my life. She said, McDonald's. Just as clear as day. I looked at her, and he said, I told you.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I was hindering my child
Hmm.
myself. And ever since he has been in our life, I've seen things, that she could do. When we first were together, I immediately started seeing all these things. I'm like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you would eat that. I
Hmm.
used to force vegetables in her mouth. I'd actually have to wrap my arm around her, because a lot of times autistic children, they love pastas, dry country, crunchy foods, things that aren't healthy for them,
Right.
and it could really mess up their intestinal system. They can't digest food well. That's another something else to watch out for. That's another something else. I don't want to call it a sign, but it is a very common trait. And that was early on, when she was a baby, not even walking. I would take
Hmm.
her to the doctor before that diagnosis, before that 1 year checkup. I said, something's wrong. She's constipated. She's having a hard time. And that was a gastrointestinal issue. And that's a
Hmm.
very common thing with autistic kids. But so I used to have to, because now, and I said all that to explain that I was determined. I knew that my child had to eat vegetables, and I cooked too many greens and beans and stuff for her to sit here and think she wasn't going to eat. And at this time, she was 7 years old. Because I did well, if you don't want to eat what I cooked,
Hmm.
you're not going to eat. I did try that, but that wasn't a good strategy for her. So there have been times to introduce new foods. I tried the little safe thing, the fun airplane, and come on, Kimani, try it. Until one day I just said, I am tired, and
Hmm.
I know this is good for you. Wrapped my arm around her, held her, gently, and I shoved those greens in her mouth. And she's been loving them. She eats everything. But it is very common that many autistic kids, teenagers, they will only eat certain things. We've gone on play dates, and the only thing this child would eat is McDonald's. And it showed. And that's what his mother got him. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know her fight or her struggle. I didn't judge her. I just, all right. And I've met families who dealt with kids who would not eat any vegetables. It was only pasta.
Wow. Yeah.
And I read about all the things that could happen, and I knew and I educated myself with all the traits, all the tendencies, all the behaviors. And one day I decided, well, it's not going to beat us that way. We're going to give it a good
Mm-hmm.
fight. And that's how we got to where we are.
Yeah. Well, girl, we got to get off this thing. I don't even know. We might have to put it on there twice, break it up into segments, but this has been awesome. Before we
I
go
hope
though,
so.
I would like you because I'm supposed to ask people and I be forgetting.
Mhm.
Because the name of the podcast is Live Intentionally Today. So what is it something that you do personally, not necessarily about autism, but just you, Kenya, that you do to be intentional each day?
I forgive myself for the day before.
Girl, yes, I love that.
I
Yes,
I no longer live in regret. I no longer live in I'm sorry's. Um, Whether it's a small mistake, I don't know. I burnt the food, burnt my pot up. You know,
yeah,
I may have,
I
I don't
love
know,
that.
just anything. I let yesterday be yesterday,
Yeah,
and
I
tomorrow
love
be
it.
tomorrow, and today is today. And that's something that I do, and it's freed me up to be a better mother, um, a better daughter, I believe, a better niece, um, better cousin. I think just freeing myself and a better wife to just let it go.
Yeah. I love that because again, that's what it's about being intentional for today. I can't do nothing about yesterday. It's
Yeah,
already gone, you know.
yeah.
But that's where this all comes from for me. I can't do nothing about yesterday.
You
I don't
can't.
even
You
know if
can't
I'm
beat
gonna be
yourself
here
up.
tomorrow. So I'm here today. But what we
Right.
got? Yeah, so
You
I
can't
love
beat yourself up about it. The mistakes, you make. As a parent, we make tons of mistakes. I don't know if I
that.
did everything right with Kimani, but I did my best.
Right. I love that. And I love you. And I just thank you so
Thank
much
you. I love you
for,
too.
yeah, I just thank you so much for bringing awareness about autism for us and letting us know about these resources. Again, www.autismspeaks.org. Thank you guys for hanging
Search
in
for
there.
Facebook groups.
Yes, search for Facebook groups. Yes. Um, is that my cousin?
Yes.
Hey, Daryl.
No, that's the other one.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
that's my
hey,
daughter.
hey,
Go
girl.
ahead, use that. Just go ahead. You can use that.
but um, but thank you all for hanging in here tonight with us. This has been awesome. Share this with your friends, family. You just never know who may benefit from this information. So, thank you for being here, Kenya, and
Thank
share
you.
your stories with us because sometimes just the personal experience is shoot to me it's more than professional experience because it's lived.
Because
It's
all the
tried and
professional
right, it's tried and true.
and
you
all the
know
professional experience is really new. They're still trying
yeah,
to understand it.
right. So if you hang on just a second for me,
Can I say
and
one more thing I forgot to say about
yeah,
Autism Speaks?
yes.
Please go to that site because I just remembered there were some surveys or some studies we got into and where I've received $50 gift cards before. So
Oh,
really, that you could get every year they do scholarships for iPads. So yes, go to that
wow.
website. Start there, and I don't know, throw autism in Google. You'll find something.
Wow.
But
And
thank you,
Wendy's on, she said great information, ladies.
thank
So
you.
um But yes, thank you all, and please go on there because we like free.
Thanks
So
for having me.
of
It
course,
was
and
an honor to be invited.
of course, you can come back anytime. You can talk about anything you want. So, um, I'm trying to get some more people to come on here. They don't want to. I ain't gonna say no names, Mama, Wendy. but so I'm gonna let them go. And as
Okay.
I always say, I am here. It is now, and I'm alive. Y'all stay lit, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday.